Learning environment refers to the diverse physical location, context, and cultures in which student learns. Since students might learn in a wide variety of settings, such as outside of school locations and outdoor environments, the term is often used as a more accurate or preferred alternative to classroom, which has more limited and traditional connotations. A room with rows of desks and chalkboard, for example. It is the teacher's job to create this community so all students will get along and celebrate one another's differences. The teacher also may introduce a number of jobs or responsibilities students need to complete in order to maintain the physical classroom. This shows the students that they need to count on one another, and it keeps students accountable for their own learning environment as well. Classroom jokes, traditions, and pets are other ways to build a strong community. When students enjoy each other's company, they are more likely to be accepting and feel safe in the environment. Another important responsibility of the teacher is to develop a learning environment where students feel motivated to learn within the boundaries and expectations of a safe classroom. By modeling and encouraging a safe environment and positive rules, students feel motivated to do the right thing and help one another. It is important for teachers to put an emphasis on intrinsic motivation in the classroom to keep students interested and invested in their own learning goals. In addition, extrinsic motivators help students understand the expectations of the classroom and aid in their intrinsic motivation. These kinds of motivators include praise, positive reinforcement, and rewards for exceptional behavior.
According to Villiers, the prior knowledge is all the information that children got by his past experiences in academic and real life. The previous knowledge is one of the ways that you can use to make connections to the new concepts using the knowledge that they already have. Because kids know a lot, but you as teacher have to make that the kids know that they already know. To activate the prior knowledge, you can use a debate about different topics and use different skills and concepts that are already familiar to the students. Every question you do is an opportunity to know how much you can teach. The context is everything inside and outside the classroom and can be affected by everyone too. There are many variables that affect the environment of a classroom. As examples, when the teacher is a bad one or it is a good one, the students will be contagious by his character. When the parents are not focused on the school, then kids will not focus on school though. The context, according to some researchers, is something consistent that always change little by little, way better or not, because there's always something affecting the students, the teacher, the parents, the school, the neighborhood, the zone. To make a good context in the classroom, it is important to keep personal problems in other place, where kids can be not affected by them and feel they are doing good things. The context is not only the resources that a classroom has, but is what a classroom needs. Maslow did a theory called humanism and explained that kids are always preoccupied. They worry about classes, their family, friends, home, extracurricular activities, physiological needs like food and sleep, and an infinite list that can goes on. The teachers not always know or even have in mind it. When kids does not feel comfortable with the environment or feel safety like in home, they will have troubles in learning. If they have problems in home, then they will have problems in everywhere. That's why teachers have to motivate the students to make an scenery where the kids feel they are belonging there. When kids have a good self-esteem, then they will participating, acting, conversating, and expressing thoughts in class and in everywhere. The necessities of the children are the things that set them in a certain way, for good or for bad. You have the power to make a difference.
Design and teach a course with a good learning environment. Articulate your learning objectives. Alignment among three main course components ensures an internally consistent structure. Alignment is when the objectives articulate the knowledge and skills you want students to acquire by the end of the course. Assessments allow the instructor to check the degree to which the students are meeting the learning objectives. Instructional strategies are chosen to foster student learning towards meeting the objectives. When these components are not aligned, students might rightfully complain that the test did not have anything to do with what was covered in class, or instructors might feel that even though students are earning a passing grade, they haven't really mastered the material at the desired level. Aligning these three components is a dynamic process, since a change in one necessarily affects the other two. One way to approach course design is to start from the learning objectives, then move on the other two components and revisit the cycle iteratively as needed. Articulating your learning objectives will help instructors select and organize course content and determine appropriate assessments and instructional strategies. Students direct their learning efforts appropriately and monitor their own progress. Learning objectives should be student-centered. We, as instructors, often have a good idea of what we want to accomplish in a given course. We want to cover certain topics, or we want to teach students certain ideas and skills. We should also think in terms of what we want the students to be able to do at the end of the course. It is very helpful to articulate learning objectives by completing this prompt. At the end of the course, students should be able to learning objectives should break down this task and focus on a specific cognitive process. Many activities that faculty believe require a single skill, for example, writing or problem solving, actually involve a synthesis of many component skills. To master these complex skills, a student must practice and gain proficiency in the discrete component skills. Writing may involve identifying an argument, enlisting appropriate evidence, organizing paragraphs, etc. Problem solving may require defining the parameters of the problem, choosing appropriate formulas, etc. Breaking down the skills will allow us to select appropriate assessments and instructional strategies so that the student practice all component skills. Align assessment with objectives. Assessment should provide us, the instructors, and the student with the evidence of how well the students have learned what we want intend them to learn. What we want students to learn and be able to do should guide the choice and design of the assessment. There are two major reasons for aligning assessment with learning objectives. First, alignment increases the probability that we will provide students with the opportunities to learn and practice their knowledge and skills that will be required on the various assessments we design. Second, when assessments and objectives are aligned, good grades are more likely to translate into good learning. When objectives and assessments are misaligned, many students will focus their efforts on activities that will lead to good grades on assessments, rather than focusing their efforts on learning what we believe is important. There are many different types of activities that can be used to assess students' proficiency on a given learning objective, and the same activity can be used to assess different objectives. To ensure more accurate assessments of students' proficiencies, it is recommended that you use different kinds of activities so that the students have multiple ways to practice and demonstrate their knowledge and skills. When deciding on what kind of assessment activities to use, it is helpful to keep in mind the following questions. What will the student work on the activity? Multiple choice answers, essays, projects, presentation, etc. Tell me about their level of competence on the targeted learning objectives. How will my assessment of their work help guide students' practice and improve the quality of their work? How will the assessment outcome for the class guide my teaching practice? Identify appropriate instructional strategies. After selecting the learning objectives and assessment for the course, we need to think about the various instructional activities we will use to engage students with the material and enable them to meet the objectives. Of course, the key is to align instructional strategies with the other two components. Many instructional strategies are flexible and can be used in service of several learning objectives, but some of them are better suited for a particular set of objectives. In most cases, we will need to use a combination of instructional strategies. This table focuses on two of three components of course design.
So, in conclusion, we all have to take care about all these elements to really create a positive learning environment and make our students learn the better to be the best ones.